I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make chocolate mint squares, and this is what they look like. This is a 3-layer, no-bake square. On the top we have a layer of chocolate, then underneath that we have a mint-flavored buttercream, and then on the bottom we have this delicious mixture of graham cracker crumbs, cocoa, dried coconut, and some chopped nuts. So the first thing you will need to do, we got to prepare our pan. You will need a 9-inch square baking pan, that's 23 centimeters. And what I do is I spray the pan, and then you can line it with foil, wax paper, or I've done parchment paper. And what I do is I just cut 2 strips, one going this way and one going the other way. And because parchment paper doesn't tend to stick and stay in place, I just use some little clips to clamp it so it stays. And then in a large bowl, you will need 2 cups, which is 200 grams of graham cracker crumbs, or you could use even crushed digestive biscuits. So I like to actually use graham cracker. You can buy graham cracker crumbs, but I like to use the graham crackers. You will need 13 of these to make 2 cups. And you can crush these in your food processor, or what I do is I just put them in a plastic bag. And then I take my rolling pin and I just smash and roll till I get crumbs. So that's what you can do. And then to that, I'm going to add a half a cup, 50 grams of chopped nuts. I'd like to chop them fairly finely. I'm using walnuts. You could use pecans, you could use almonds, you could use hazelnuts. Just put that in there. And along with 1 cup of dried coconut. Now you can use sweetened, unsweetened, you can use shredded, you can use flaked. I'm using the sweetened today, and I'm just going to toss all that. Okay, so now in a medium-sized saucepan, you will need a half a cup, 113 grams of butter, salted or unsalted here, whatever you have in the house. And I'm just going to put this on, medium, low heat, and I'm just going to melt that. So my butter is almost melted. So in a separate bowl, I'm just going to whisk 1 egg, just to break it up. Try to have your egg at room temperature. Okay, and my butter is melted, as you can see. So I'm going to add 1/4 cup, 50 grams of granulated white sugar, along with 1/4 cup, 30 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. Now you can use the regular unsweetened, or you could use a Dutch process, whatever you have. And then I'm just going to mix all this together, and it'll melt it. Have your heat at low at this point. Okay, yeah, looks good. So I'm going to take it off the heat because I want to whisk in my egg. Now this is warm, and so have your egg at room temperature. And you want to be whisking all the time. We do not want to scramble our eggs. We just want to incorporate it into the hot mixture. So do it whisking, and do it just gradually. Whisk, whisk, whisk. Okay, that's good. And then I'm just going to put this back on the heat to cook that egg a little and thicken the mixture. So have your heat like low here. So I'm just going to whisk it just for like a minute or 2 over low heat. Okay, so that looks, it's thickened. I don't know whether you can see that but it's pretty thick. So unplug that. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract for flavor. So just whisk that in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add our liquid, or our mixture here. Pour that right over the graham cracker crumbs. this really is a Nanaimo bar, only we're going to make the middle layer a mint buttercream instead of, you know, the original Nanaimo bar has a vanilla buttercream. So if this recipe seems familiar, that is why. Okay. Just kind of mix it all together here. You want to get all those graham cracker crumbs moistened with the liquid mixture. Okay, I'm going to get my hands in here. It's cooled down a bit, so there we have it. As you can see, everything's moistened. So now I'm just going to put this into the bottom of my pan. You could use a back of a spoon, offset spatula. I'm using my hands because they're a mess anyway. So what you want to do is just try to get an even layer. So now I'm just making sure it's nice and even, flat, and that's it. So now I'm going to cover it and put it into the refrigerator until it's nice and firm. You know, depending on your fridge, how cold it is. I find about an hour. I mean, you could even do this part and leave it overnight if you want, but about an hour. And then when we come back, we will make the mint buttercream. Next, we're going to make our mint buttercream. You will need 1/4 cup, 55 grams of butter. Again, you could use salted or unsalted here. Just have it at room temperature. I'm just going to mash that, kind of smooth it out. I'm just going to use a hand mixer. You could use your stand mixer, or you could just mix it by hand. And you will need 2 cups, which is 230 grams of confectioner's sugar. You may know that as powdered or icing sugar. I do like to sift it. It tends to have lumps, so I'm just using a strainer. If you had an actual sifter, you could use that. And that in there. Okay, I'm just going to start this off by hand because it's a lot of sugar. Don't want that coming up in my face, but it probably will. So I'm going to put my mixer on low speed. Let's mix that together. Okay, it's starting to mix together. So now what I'm going to do is add some milk. I'm going to add, we're probably going to need about maybe 3-4 tablespoons. We just want to get it to spreading consistency, so I'm going to start with maybe 2.5. You can use milk, or you could use like half and half or a light cream, depending how rich you want your buttercream to be. So I'm just going to mix that in. Okay, that's still pretty thick. I'm going to add a little more. Along with, we're going to have it mint flavored. So now you could use either a ½ teaspoon, 2 grams of pure peppermint extract, or 1/4 teaspoon of pure peppermint oil, either one, whatever you have. I'm just going to add a little more milk here. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of green food coloring in. I'm using gel. You could use the liquid food coloring. And that way, you know, when people see green, they think mint. So that's why I'm going to color it. You don't have to. So I'm going to see how that looks. Okay, I went a little heavy on that green, but so you might want, if you're using the gel, remember that a little goes a long way, but it's okay. It's looking pretty good. You want to make sure that coloring's really mixed in. I think I might add just a touch more milk, and then we will be done. Just a little bit. Okay, let's check that. Yeah, that looks good. So, cover that, and then I'm going to spread our buttercream. I use the peppermint oil, and you can really smell that in here. Okay. And then you just, back of a spoon, or I'm using my offset spatula, I'm just going to spread this out evenly. And then I'm going to pop it back into the refrigerator to chill this layer, because then we're going to put the chocolate on top of that. For our final layer, you will need a saucepan of simmering water, and then in a heat-proof bowl, I like to use stainless steel. I have 6 ounces, which is 170 grams of chocolate. Now you can use either a semi-sweet or a bittersweet chocolate. Try to use a chocolate that you just like to eat on its own. And, you know, I'm using these wafer size, but if you're using like a chocolate bar, just kind of coarsely chop it up. And then just so when you melt the chocolate, it gets nice and smooth, I'm adding a ½ tablespoon. Now I'm using vegetable shortening. You could use butter, just a little bit, kind of makes the chocolate nice and fluid. And make sure your water is at a simmer, and I'm just going to melt these together. Our chocolate is now melted, so I'm going to take that off the heat. Give it a good stir. It is a little warm. I want it fluid when I pour it over the mint buttercream, but I don't want it like hot, because then it'll just melt the buttercream. So I'm just going to let this cool for a few minutes down to lukewarm, and then we will finish our squares off. So our chocolate is cooled down, but it's still nice and fluid, so I'm just going to drizzle it over the top. And then back of a spoon or offset spatula, spread that out. I love how shiny it is. And then we're going to put this back into the refrigerator, not for very long. We just want the chocolate to set up a little. So it will kind of lose its shine and just be set. We don't want it to get really hard, because then when we try to cut through it, it's going to crack the chocolate, which we don't want. So I say maybe check it after 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And then when we come back, I'm just going to, sometimes I just shake it to even it out. And when we come back, we will cut our squares. So now we have our chocolate mint squares. I did take them out of the pan off the camera because Rick had to hold the pan while I tried to lift it up. It's kind of a two-person job. So now with a sharp knife, the edges are kind of ragged, so I am going to cut that off. Slice it through. Okay, there we go. Cook's treat there. I don't throw them out. And then I like to wipe my knife between cuts so we get a nice... If your chocolate was too hard, you could just let your squares sit for a little bit and then cut through like so. And then I turn it. Whoops, put that out of the way. If you had, you could run this under some hot water. Oh, mine are still a little soft there. But we will... I don't cut these very large because they are quite rich. So there we have my chocolate's warming up here. So there we have our chocolate mint square. We have the bottom, wonderful combination of the graham cracker, the nuts, the cocoa powder, the coconut, and then we have the mint buttercream and the chocolate on top. Pretty good. The whole combination is so good. Kind of like one of those little peppermint patties with the, because I use the pure peppermint oil, which gives you that real menthol kind of flavor, and that chocolate on top is wonderful with the base. Really nice 3-layer, no-bake square. Try it. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.